I don't have a whole lot to say about the fight on Saturday night. It was business as usual. Anthony Joshua, still undefeated, still hasn't gone the distance in the professional ranks. You know, one thing that irks me is that people used to be able to think on their own, and that just doesn't happen anymore. Nobody thinks on their own. It's like if somebody who sounds intelligent, doesn't matter if they are or not. If somebody on television, which is the greatest invention in the world and it's the worst invention in the world, if somebody on television says something, it's like the whole world runs with it. So when Paulie Malignaggi and Al Bernstein and whoever else said that it was a bad stoppage, next thing you know, everybody who calls themselves a boxing journalist on YouTube, it's a bad stoppage. And then if somebody says something on like a website like Boxing Scene, then that's everybody's top story. Well, such and such said, and it's like, I didn't understand stuff until people would put it in like the body of their videos. It's like people see stuff on Boxing Scene, and then that is like the impetus to their creating stories. It's like nobody's going out and digging for stories, or nobody's just thinking for themselves. I mean, what I mean is, when I said that the Joshua versus Klitschko fight was stopped a little premature, you have to take into consideration the participants and how the fight went. Remember, Klitschko knocked Joshua down, and then Joshua knocked Klitschko down a couple of times, but at the point where they stopped it, I don't care if Klitschko was tired or exhausted. Joshua had his point in the fight where he's exhausted. But not only do you look at something as being a title fight, you got to look at a guy who was a champion for like 10 years and who threatened Joe Louis's consecutive title defenses. And you have to take those things into consideration. And if you go back and watch the Joshua versus Klitschko fight, how it ended, if you go back and watch it, or if it happened too fast, look at it in slow motion. When he threw like 11, 12, 13 punches, however many they were, like one of them got through. Maybe there was a body shot mixed in between, so 2 out of like 13 shots got through. Klitschko's blocking some of the punches, he's slipping some of the punches, and I'm like, they stopped the fight. And then Klitschko said something to the referee, and no, it wasn't thank you for stopping the fight, but he was saying I'm okay, or something along those lines. And the first thing that comes out of people's mouth, because they heard it somewhere else, they're not thinking for themselves as well, Klitschko didn't complain. Listen, these guys, Klitschko, Golovkin, they're not, just because somebody would hoop and holler and jump up and down in the United States, there's a different culture over there. So he said his piece. Same with what's the guy, Povetkin and Kovalev. When those guys talk, they'll talk a day or two afterwards and say, I didn't think such and such was right, or what have you. But they're more into the sport and sportsmanship and so on and so forth. So it's like, so yes, it was a premature stoppage, but it's like, What else you got for me? Okay, you heard that. Everybody in the world is repeating it. And then people go to boxing scene or ring or boxing 247 or what have you, or thefightjournal.com for that matter. But nobody's thinking for themselves. Okay, give me more than what you read on a website. Give me more than what you heard on your television. Give me something else. And people just don't do that anymore. As far as the fight is concerned, listen, a lot of people are like now saying, oh yeah, the fight with Wilder is 50-50. And they're also saying, well, if the Anthony Joshua of Saturday night would have been in there with Deontay Wilder, then Wilder would have beat him. Well, let me ask you this. What version of Deontay Wilder are you talking about? Was it the one that struggled with Eric Molina? Come on now. Like, where's this amnesia coming from? Was it the guy who fought the football player from USC who just had problems throughout the fight? With the Gerald Washington guy who, which Deontay Wilder are you talking about? So I still see that fight the same. I think Anthony Joshua beats Deontay Wilder. You have to list him as the favorite. You just see one fight against a guy who's much shorter and shows a lot of movement, and all of a sudden, oh, Wilder, I got Wilder stopping him. Or it's a 50-50 fight now, and I had it like 70-30, or 65-35, or 60-40, or what have you. Now it's 50-50 with most, and the others say, I think Deontay would have got him. Okay, which Deontay are you talking about? Because Deontay Wilder is not Carlos TAKAM. He's not a short guy that you have to find. He's not a guy that gives you movement or the like. And how would Deontay Wilder acquit himself? You have to understand. Yes, has Wilder fought in front of 5,000 people? Yes, 7,000. But you're talking about 80 to 100,000, depending on what venue they use in the UK. And it's easy to say what you want, but my question is, would the moment be too big for Deontay? The fight has to take place in the UK. For the simple fact that Anthony Joshua made over $30,000 when $30 million. Oh, thousand. Take two. Anthony Joshua made over $30 million when all the money came in for the Vladimir Klitschko fight. Anthony Joshua made over $20 million to fight Carlos TAKAM. Think about that. How many people knew who TAKAM was prior to Saturday night? And you got 20 million, and that's the straight up money. We're not talking about how much he made. That's just the money off the top. Now, how much more did he get? He's not going to get that type of money coming to America and fighting Deontay Wilder. Wilder needs to come see him. And listen, you get 7 million, 8 million, 10 million. They'll give you 7 million plus the US TV. So, it's a deal that Deontay Wilder can't pass up. Deontay Wilder, what's his career high? Like 1.5 million or something like that. So if you're talking about giving him 10 times the money, 7 times the money, that's something he has to take. It's not going to happen. If you can't see through this con game, and I spoke about it on some previous videos, I'm not going to go over it again. You can listen and get the real deal on that. And now all of a sudden, Pulev, the guy who was supposed to fight Joshua, was going to get a title shot versus a guy who's about somewhere like 45 years old and hasn't fought in 3 years, Frezo Oquendo. So, but you were injured. Listen, monies were paid. I don't want to go over this brown paper bag business again. Check out my past few videos with Wilder name in it, or just talking about the heavyweight situation. This Stavern thing was going to happen all along. He knew it. Team Wilder knew it. Deontay Wilder knew it. The Ortiz thing, come on, man. Let's get real. And now you have guys like speaking of Ortiz, you got guys like Joseph Parker, who, if you watch his fight, I think he fought Joseph Parker had a fight after, but if you look at Joseph Parker's fight with Andy Ruiz, I mean, and then his criticism of Deontay Wilder, it's like, Joseph, if your fight with Andy Ruiz or Ruiz, it was always Ruiz until John Ruiz came along and everybody's going with the Ruiz. Same with Ortiz, and then Ortiz came along, and Victor Ortiz, and now everybody's calling it Ortiz instead of Ortiz, and Ruiz instead of Ruiz. But if that fight was anywhere other than Auckland, New Zealand, then Andy Ruiz probably would have made history and become the first Mexican world heavyweight champion. So Joseph Parker, okay, you talking all this nonsense like you some kind of world beater. Come to the UK, get your biggest payday ×4, ×5, whatever the case may be, and see if you can beat it. Because see, Joshua is used to fighting these 6'4", 6'5", 6'6" guys. TAKAM gave him something that he wasn't used to. Now, with all of that said, no, he didn't look impressive at all, and it was a very inorganic performance. And what do I mean? Well, a corner can tell you everything that you want to hear, and you can listen to your corner, but eventually you have to go and let your natural instincts take over. And I think what happened with AJ, with Joshua, is that he listened to his corner too much. Now, that's a loaded statement there, because boxing is so used to guys who don't listen to their corner. But what I'm saying here is that he listened to them too much, instead of saying, okay, I did what you said to put me in position to do something, and then boom, you got to do it. You got to let your instinct take over as a fighter. He didn't. He kind of just was coached through the fight. kind of followed everything he was told as opposed to mixing in his natural ability. So, I still say the same thing about Anthony Joshua that I said before the Klitschko fight. Can a right hand catch Anthony Joshua? Absolutely. However, there is a left hook waiting, and it has Anthony Joshua's name written all over it. I don't know who's going to throw it and land it. I don't know when it's going to come. Before that young man retires, there's going to be a left hook that puts him on the canvas hard. Will he get up? I don't know. My gut says it's going to be one that he doesn't see, and we'll see. The jury's still out on Anthony Joshua. But listen, he's only 20 fights in. I mean, cut the guy a break. Some people put him on a pedestal that it's going to be nearly impossible for him to reach. But others have just totally discounted him after this showing, and he's somewhere in between, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, you have to let this develop. You have to give him time. Is he more Frank Bruno than he is Lennox Lewis? Time will tell. I hope that one day he'll look at what Vladimir Klitschko did with him. Vladimir took off some muscle. He had a lot of lean muscle, and so it was less bulk when he fought, and he looked fantastic for a guy who was off over a year, for a guy who was as old as he was in the boxing ring. So, and had a lot of mileage on top of just being old. Vladimir had close to 70 fights almost. Joshua needs to work. To me, I don't have any. Listen, his offense was pretty basic, but once again, Wilder, Parker, these guys don't move, and they're not short. They don't move like TAKAM did. That's not my concern. I think he'll be fine offensively. Yes, he has stamina issues, and I really liked what TAKAM did when he was going to the body, and I really wish that this thing would have went further to see what was going to happen afterwards. I think that yes, TAKAM was partially in survival mode, but he had his opportunity. He had his moments, and I just wanted to see if he went to the body quite a bit. And I just wanted to see what was going to happen had it continued, but we'll never know. The odds are Joshua's going to win, possibly by knockout or corner stoppage or doctor stoppage or whatever, but you can't say, oh well, I mean, he wasn't going to win anyway. You can't say that. Not in any sport, you can't say that. In boxing, if you chose any sport. The theater of the unknown, one big right hand. So you saw Joshua hurt versus Dillian White. You saw him hurt and knocked down against Dr. K, Vladimir Klitschko. And in the Dillian White fight, he was wobbled. He was rocked a couple of times. So defensively, I just think he leaves himself open for, oh man, it's wide open too, for a left hook. So we'll see, but that's what makes the heavyweight division so fun right now, so compelling, so exciting, because each fighter has flaws that that should cause insecurities, and maybe that's why they don't fight each other. But it has to happen. It has to happen in 2018. They're talking late 2018. I just think that money has exchanged hands, and just follow the money. And I know you can't, because you don't see those brown paper bags exchanging hands, but people need to think for themselves. You stop going to these websites. Just kind of do the math. I want people to make videos that show that they're thinking on their own. They're not taking stuff everybody says and going to ESPN and repeating what Dan Raphael put in print word for word. And I'm like, oh man, that makes sense. And then I go later on and see where they got it from, and I'm like, oh, come on, man. So people laughed at me. Nobody even complained about the Klitschko fight being a little premature. But now everybody wants to talk about this. And it's like, because you heard it from one or two people who sound intelligent, or one or two people who were on that square tube. And it's like, okay, if you want to repeat that, that's fine. But then give me more. And people aren't giving me more. So I purposely kind of waited to do this video to see if but it's like, if it's not boxing scene, it's ring. If it's not ring, it's boxing talk. If it's not boxing talk, it's boxing news 24 or boxing 247 or fight hype, or it's like, come on, man. Who somebody give me something that it's not your run-of-the-mill, oh, I caught this off of such and such as YouTube and I'll just repeat it type of thing. So to me, Anthony Joshua is still, until somebody proves it, still the best heavyweight out there. He, yes, has quite a few flaws, and so do the rest. And that's what makes this fun, because now you put those guys in the ring, and who can expose whose flaws fast enough or well enough to earn a victory. It's a bunch of flawed guys out there, and once again, in boxing, you have a bunch of champions who are learning on the job. They won their belts too early, and they haven't matured as fighters. Anthony Joshua, Deontay Wilder, Gervonta Davis, who's no longer a champion, Jarrett Hurd. I mean, these guys, it's not like the old day where you earned it. It's like, no, we put you in position, bribes are made, you get your shot, and you either win or you don't. So I don't know. We'll see what Wilder brings to the table this weekend. The FightJournal.com will be in the house. You got Showtime Sean Porter, not Showtime Porter, but Showtime Sean Porter, taking on Adrian Granados. And let me tell you something about Porter versus Granados. Let me just say it here first. I'm sure I don't really watch other videos, so I'm not sure if anyone said this, but I'll go and I'll look. I don't watch a lot of videos, but I haven't heard anything about this fight. But I'll say it, and if other people said it, that's fine. It's not. When I say don't repeat what other people say, I'm not saying that that's bad. You can do that, but then give me your take. Give me a little bit more on it. I think that'll make boxing journalism a lot better. Whether you write it, whether you do the videos, what have you. The coverage. Anyway, Not to say everything I say is right, because it's not. But I just want more from other channels, is what I'm saying. A little more steak and potatoes. You know what I mean? But Showtime Sean Porter versus Adrian Granados. Here's the thing. It is either going to be one of the most entertaining fights of the year, or one of the sloppiest fights of the year, or, and I hate to say this, or maybe a little of both, but don't you just get the feeling that somewhere in the first 3-4 rounds that Sean Porter's head is going to clash with Adrian Granados' head, and Granados is going to get busted open? You just sense that that's going to happen, because you got two action guys fighting, and neither of them want to take a step back. Maybe Granados will, but I know Porter's not. And I don't know. So I don't know. I think I'm gonna order a couple of books and give them away as prizes. I know I talked about contests this year. I'm going to comment on that a little maybe toward the end of the year or the beginning of next year, and let you know what's going on with that. But there's a book out. I think I'm gonna get my hands on a few copies and maybe give them out as prizes. And it's about a guy who started out as a slave, and I'm gonna it's the book is called Tom Molyneux, From Bondage to Baddest Man on the Planet. And he didn't get a title shot because of the color of his skin, but it's a good book, nice read, as they say, easy read. And I just want some people to read about some of boxing history. So if people are interested, I'll have some kind of contest, maybe give away 2 or 3 of those books for those that might be interested when it comes out. There's another book that I really like. It's by Paul Gallagher. It's called Sonny Liston, The Real Story Behind the Ali Liston Fights. And trust me, gotta read this book. I'm gonna get a couple copies of that. I think I could probably get them signed by Paul. When you find out how old Sonny Liston really was when he fought Muhammad Ali, when you find out how the Nation of Islam kind of made sure that Ali was, I'll just say, put in position to win. When you just hear about how Liston was portrayed as this mean guy, and don't get me wrong, he was. But when you see some of the pictures in there, photos that no one else ever has of how he played with the kids, and not just black kids, but white kids who weren't his race, and how they loved him, and how he just was a big teddy bear, how he got started in fighting, which a lot of people don't know. How old he really was. how there's just so much in that book you don't know because all you hear is about the Muhammad Ali side. Well, I want you to be educated on the Liston side and a lot of the mystery of his life. And the guy was Gallagher was trying to finish the book for I think 30 or 40 years. I can't remember if it was 30 or 40. And he just couldn't finish it. He couldn't find a good finish to it. And he met a guy in Philly, one of the places Liston used to live. And the guy said, well, why don't you ask Sonny's son? And as much as Gallagher knew about Liston, and believe me, he knew pretty much more than anyone that I know. He was like, Sonny has a son? Yeah, and he lives in Philly. And he caught up to the son. The son kind of gave his little touch about Sonny, and that's how the book got completed. Deep story. So anyway, make sure you check out the Wilder fight. Check that Klitschko replay out. You don't have to agree with me. And I know Klitschko was out of gas, but he wasn't out on his feet. He was still defending. I mean, he was being overwhelmed by the punches, but they were missing. And could have got to the point where he took a knee or grabbed or something, but I'm not sure how many fights they're going to show on Showtime. I don't know if they're going to do the Showtime Extreme thing or anything like that, but we'll see. I mean, will Berman Stavern come with anything different than he did in the first fight? I don't know. Stavern doesn't, he doesn't train. And when I say he doesn't train, don't take. See, this is what I'm talking about. Somebody will say something, and then by the time it gets to the 50th video or 20th website, it's twisted. And what I'm saying is, so when I say Stavern doesn't train, do I mean he doesn't train? No. He trains, but he doesn't train like he should. He doesn't, and so you just don't know. And a lot of fights Stavern wins is because he's good enough, or that he won in the past is because he's good enough to win just on his natural talent. Well, that's not going to work this time. So we're going to see. This is his second and certainly final fight. Then you have Dominic Breazeale versus Eric Molina. You got the vacant IBF World something title, some old weird name. So it's Sergey Lipinets, who was supposed to get his shot at Terrence Crawford before he vacated. You got Porter Granados, as I said. Shawnee Monahan is going to be on the card. One of my favorite fighters. He's only 3-0. I'm hoping they got him listed as a TBE, a TBA, excuse me. Lord knows, excuse me for that. Dylan Price. So I hope he's a super flyweight. Maybe some years down the line, he'll be on a super flyweight card. And that's coming in February too. Let me mention that, the Superfly 2 card. That should be something else. I don't know if it'll top the first one, but so it's they're gonna match Estrada up with Rungvisai, and I don't know who else is gonna be on that card, but that should be decent. But I mean, how many part 2s are as good as part 1s? I mean, you can just look at the movies. So it'll be tough for them to match the original Superfly card. But what else is coming out? I'll do another video talking about the remainder boxing schedule for the fourth quarter, and we catch you on the next one.